The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is Magic Round. Unbelievable that it is snuck up on us. It is round 11 of the NRL in 2024. Magic Round, where all 8 games will be played up in Brisbane at Suncorp Stadium. It is a great carnival atmosphere up there, and it is great to see all fans of all clubs up there getting dressed up and into the festivities. And look, it all kicks off on Friday night at 6 p.m. with the Raiders taking on the Bulldogs. And look, this is going to be an interesting game, I think. This one, the Raiders had the bye last week. The Bulldogs, they've been playing some pretty good footy, so much so that they have the same team as last week. So unchanged 17 from the one that pushed the Panthers all the way in round 10. They nearly got the win. The Panthers won 16 points to 10, but the Bulldogs certainly gave them a good run for their money. For the Raiders, Jordan Rapana is back. He missed 4 games with a knee injury. Albert Hopewade goes to 18th man. Josh Papali'i is named to start at prop, but could go to the bench on game day. He did that in the win over Manly, the comeback from behind win against Manly prior to the bye. So something that Parramatta are doing with Junior Paulo at the moment as well. So look, a strong side, a young side for the Raiders. And look, it's going to be interesting. As I said, the Raiders came back from behind to beat the Manly Sea Eagles at Brookvale Oval at 4 Pines Park. And it was a remarkable comeback 2 weeks ago against the Sea Eagles. Can they sustain that? They will not want to get off to a bad start like they did in that game and have to come back. That is for sure. Look, it's a replay of the 1994 Grand Final between these two sides, obviously won by the Canberra Raiders. Now, I do believe for you Raiders fans that the 1994 team is going to be up in Brisbane for this game, and maybe even for a meet and greet as well. I'm not too sure where. I think it could be in the precinct outside Suncorp Stadium, but I'm not 100% on that one. But you Raiders fans will know what is happening. Obviously, that was captained by Mal Meninga in his last season of rugby league before heading off to the Kangaroo Tour. And look, in this game, 2024, 30 years later, I am going to tip the Bulldogs in this game. I just think that they are playing a good brand of footy. As I said, they pushed the Panthers last week, almost got the win. They're travelling not too bad at the moment. They sit in 9th position on the ladder on 10 points. So they've had 4 wins, 5 losses, but they've been competitive in those 5 losses. They've also had 1 bye as well, but as I said, they've been competitive in those games that they have lost, like last weekend. So I'm going to tip the Bulldogs in that one. Now, the next game at Suncorp Stadium, as all games are at Suncorp Stadium this weekend, the Sea Eagles and the Broncos. Now, they played in the Broncos played the Manly Sea Eagles in their first ever game at the old Lang Park in 1988. Geez, I'm pulling out the old games here, aren't I? the Broncos got the win, 44 points to 10, I think it was that day. Wally got a try. I think he got a double by memory. I could be wrong there, but I think he got a double. Anyway, that was a long time ago. Let's talk about this one, round 11. Well, look, the Broncos are the away side in this one, and it's always a bit weird having the Broncos as the away team because it is Suncorp Stadium, but the Sea Eagles this week have come out and said that starting from next year, they will not be having Magic Round as their home game. So this will be interesting to see if the Sea Eagles and the Broncos play again next year in Magic Round. I think they've done it a couple of times in Magic Round over the couple of years. So they've certainly come out and said that they don't want to do that next year, or they won't be doing that next year. They will be the away side. I think teams who take this as a home game get compensated about $350,000, I think I read somewhere on social media. So they will be the away side. But anyway, this is the game, 8:05 p.m. Now, the big news for the Sea Eagles is Tom Trbojevic is out for 7 or so weeks with a hamstring injury that he suffered last weekend against the Dolphins. And Tolu Kula has been named at fullback, so pretty good replacement there. He's got a lot of speed, that is for sure, and has played fullback before when Tom has been out, so a good move there. Also, Tommy Talau moves to the centres with Raymond Tuamalo-Vaaga coming onto the wing for his second game of the season. And the big news also for Manly is Hamoli Olakawatu returns from some suspension, so back into the second row, so Corey Waddell goes to the bench. For the Broncos, they've had a couple of changes as well. So Jock Madden comes in at halfback after Josh Rogers had a pretty good game against Parramatta last week, but I guess Jock was always going to be the choice. He was injured last week, but I guess Jock was always going to be the choice over Josh, but it wouldn't have been too bad if Josh got the job anyway. But Jock is back in for Adam Reynolds. Billy Walters is out with a wrist injury that he suffered in the game against Parramatta last weekend. Tyson Smoothy, who was on the bench for that game, he comes into the starting lineup, and look, that's a good move. Obviously, if you're on the bench as a hooker, then no doubt you will get the starting position if your number one hooker goes down. So Blake Moser comes onto the bench in replace of Tyson Smoothy on the bench there as he goes into the starting lineup, and he plays his second career game and his first of 2024. Look, I really think that we have seen it in the past, the loss of Tom Trbojevic is a massive one for the Sea Eagles. The Broncos, look, they played some pretty good footy last week against Parramatta. Yes, sure, they did get a few tries off Parramatta mistakes, but they are a pretty organised football team at the moment. Certainly Ezra Mam is stepping up whilst Adam Reynolds is out. We've seen in the past, in this year anyway, that Jock Madden has done a good job whilst Reynolds has been out as well. So look, I'm going to tip the away side in this game. I'm going to tip the Broncos to win this game. I'm not too sure how much they'll win by, but I think the Broncos will get the victory. In the kickoff to Saturday, 3 p.m. So traditional old kickoff time there for rugby league fans, 3 p.m. How good's that? 3 p.m. footy. It sees the Titans take on the Knights. Now, the Gold Coast Titans, they have got some massive outs. AJ Brimson with a groin injury, Kieran Foran with a hamstring injury, so some big outs there. So, look, that's your halves combination gone. So, Chris Randall and Sam Verrills come into the halves at 5'8" and halfback. So, Look, I've never seen Sam Verrills play halfback before, so I'm not too sure how he would go there. But obviously, Coach Des Hasler has got faith in him, and he has played that position before. So I guess that's why they've gone with him. Keanu Kinney gets the fullback position. And also out this week as well is Harley Smith-Shields with a pectoral injury, which unfortunately I think is a season-ending injury as well. Now, for the Gold Coast Titans, if they win this game, they can go to back-to-back wins. Now, the Gold Coast Titans, they have been playing some good footy, but without results. But especially over the last month, they have been playing some good footy. They just got away with the win against the North Queensland Cowboys over the weekend, but they got the win. So they still see themselves in 16th spot, only 2 wins for the season, but on 6 points with 1 bye that they've had. So they'll want to get this win. I don't think they will, though, but the Newcastle Knights, obviously, Kalen Ponga is still out, but David Armstrong at fullback, he's been doing some great things there, scoring tries. So he is no Kalen Ponga, but he is certainly doing a job there at fullback. That is for sure. Bradman Best, he'll be trying to push for a origin position. Jack Cogger is in at 5'8" with Tyson Gamble, a foot injury he has suffered, so that brings Jack Cogger back into the side at 5'8" as well. We have seen him play there before this year as well. And Jacob Saifidi is back from a leg injury, and with his twin brother Daniel suspended this week for a careless high tackle. So look, I think Newcastle will get the win in this one. I think this could be a high scoring game, but I think the Newcastle Knights will get the win. I just think with AJ Brimson and Kieran Foran out, I think the Titans will do it tough. I mean, they're 2 big outs for the Titans, and the Knights, even though they have got Kalen Ponga out, they've won 3 from 3 with Ponga out. So I'm going to lean towards the Newcastle Knights in that one. The second game on Saturday, 5:30 p.m, is what most people are calling the match of the round. So it sees the Sharks take on the Roosters. Now, look, the Sharks, they sit on top of the ladder, and the Roosters, they sit in 5th position on the ladder as well. However, they have scored, I think it's about 138 points in the last 3 games. So they are certainly scoring points at will. But for the Sharks, Nico Hines is back. He had a bit of calf tightness, which saw him sit out the Storm game, which many thought might have been a big loss for the Sharks, but they ended up getting the win there. Daniel Atkinson certainly stepping up in that one. Blake Brayley goes back to hooker. Cam McInnes back to lock. Jack Williams back to the bench as well. So a few changes there as well. But the Roosters have one key out, and that is Joey Manu. He is entering the NRL concussion protocols. And so that is a big loss for the Roosters. However, Brandon Smith returns after missing round 10 with a calf injury, so Connor Watson goes back to the bench. So, look, a couple of changes there to the Roosters, but they are certainly playing some good footy, scoring a lot of points, and that is probably on the back of halfback Sam Walker, who has been on fire the last few weeks, starting with that Anzac Day game against the Dragons. And look, a try that the Roosters scored last week where he just kicked the ball 50 metres across field, Great vision there from Sam Walker. Must be the beard that he has got growing at the moment. It is certainly excelling at the moment there. So, look, the Roosters, for mine, will get this win, and the Sharks, unfortunately, will lose. And most people would say, why would you say that? They had the great win against the Storm last week. Well, look, this will be a bigger test, I think, from the Storm, even though that was down in Melbourne. I think this will be a bigger test. Can the Sharks go back-to-back with big games, e.g. they played the Storm last week and they play the Roosters this week? So can they get two big scalps, as a lot of people have said they have had a soft draw, but look, you just have to play who is in front of you, and the Sharks have been getting the wins. So that's why they sit top of the ladder. However, I am going to tip the Roosters in this one. Now, the next game is the Rabbitohs and the Cowboys, 7:45 p.m. on Saturday. So, two sides that are struggling a lot this season at the moment. The Cowboys having 5 straight losses. They sit in 12th spot on the ladder on 8 points. And the Rabbitohs, well, we all know what sort of a season they have had. They've only had the one win this year. They have got a massive injury toll. Latrell Mitchell, he came back last week. However, he did score 2 tries. However, he did have a few blunders as well. But I'm sure he will learn from that anyway. Look, maybe it's an opportunity for Cody Walker to push for an Origin spot. We all know there's a few injuries in the halves at the moment for New South Wales. He was man of the match in Game 3 last year, so potentially he could be pushing for an Origin spot. So he will be up for a big game, that is for sure. Alex Johnston, he returns from a hamstring injury for his first game since round 4. And Jacob Gagai is back as well after a calf injury as well on the other wing as well. So, look, a couple of ins there for the Rabbitohs, which is always good to get players back, especially for a team like the Rabbitohs who are struggling with injuries at the moment. Isaac Thompson goes into the centre position. Jack Whiten has come out today and said that he will not be available for State of Origin selection. He has happily retired from State of Origin and representative football. He says that there's plenty of young players who can take his place. So he wants to concentrate, get his body right, and he wants to concentrate on South Sydney this season. For the Cowboys, well, look, Murray Tuilagi, he comes back. Jordan McLean comes back as well from hamstring injuries. Semi Valamai, he sustained an ankle injury against the Titans, so that's a loss there for them, but a pretty handy replacement in Tuilagi coming back into the side. No doubt a Queensland Origin player. Will be maybe trying to push for a Origin spot himself. And look, the Cowboys, look, they have been struggling this season. As I said, 5 losses for them in a row. It's not like the Cowboys we saw of 2022. They've sort of thrown out the defense manual and have concentrated on trying to score more points than the opposition. That's how you win games of rugby league, and it just hasn't been working for them. So a tough test for them. It is a tough test. Any NRL game is tough, but they are playing the Rabbitohs, so they need to be wary of the Rabbitohs because, as I said, the Rabbitohs have been struggling and they will want to get off that bottom of the ladder, a proud club like them. Look, I'm going to tip the Cowboys in this one. I just think that the Rabbitohs are still going to struggle in this one. Perhaps maybe being Magic Round, maybe Latrell Mitchell might have a bit of magic to show around. Maybe Cody Walker as well. Maybe a bit of magic at Magic Round. But I just think the Cowboys, they can score points. If they can get their defence working, then they will hold out the Rabbitohs, obviously, and get the win. So I'm going to tip the Cowboys in that one. The first game, moving on to Sunday. Now, this is a pretty interesting clash as well. The Warriors taking on the Panthers. Now, for the Panthers, obviously, Nathan Cleary is out with that hamstring injury. So, Jerome Luai moves to halfback. Jack Cole, who we saw at the World Club Challenge, he comes into the 5/8 position. Isaac Tungo, he comes back into the centre position after serving that suspension. And look, as I just said there, so Paul Alamotti goes to 18th man. So Scott Sorensen, he's still listed among the reserves, but could be a late inclusion as he works his way back from a knee injury. But they may just hold that back another week. So, yeah, obviously the big one there for the Panthers is Nathan Cleary. But we have seen the Panthers, the next man up mentality, step up and get the job done. Look, for the New Zealand Warriors, there's a lot of changes there. Sean Johnson, pec injury. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, hamstring injury. Freddie Lussick, concussion protocols. So, look, this is a few changes there, which sees a new starting halves combination in Chance Nickel Clockstar to 5'8" and Tamari Martin to halfback. Wade Egan will start at hooker. Now, the good news for you Warriors fans is that Wade Egan has extended his stay at the Warriors until the end of 2027. So some good news there for you Warriors fans. And look, it's I think for the Warriors, I think they will struggle without Sean Johnson. He hasn't been playing the football that he has been playing like he did last year, but he is still their general. He still is the one that gets them around the park. Yes, Nathan Cleary is out as well, but we have seen the Panthers do the job against opposition with him out previously as well. So I'm going to tip the Panthers in this one. Sorry to all the New Zealand Warriors fans there. Look, the Warriors sit in 14th position on 7 points at the moment, so nowhere near where they want to be this part of the season. They want to be further up the ladder. Like any team down the bottom, they want to be further up the ladder, but especially the Warriors, who made the prelim final in 2023. And the next game is Sunday, 4:05 p.m, sees the Melbourne Storm take on the Parramatta Eels. Now, the Storm are the home side for this game, and I'll start with those. So Xavier Coates, he returns from a hamstring injury, so we all know he can score a try or two. And Jerome Hughes is still sidelined with a calf injury, but other than that, no other changes to the team that went down to the Cronulla Sharks. Now, the Melbourne Storm, they haven't lost back-to-back games since round 3 last year. So it just shows you when they lose a game, they tend to win a game the next week. So that's what's going to be difficult for Parramatta, to see if they can break that sort of hoodoo. And it's going to be really tough for the Eels. Still no Mitchell Moses. There were reports that he was possibly going to be named this weekend, but it more than likely will be next weekend, as he may try and push for an origin spot for New South Wales. Just needs to get a game or two, possibly just one against South Sydney in Indigenous round next week. So he's still out. Dylan Brown still stays at halfback. The interesting one for me is Dejan Arce comes into 5'8". Now, he wore that jersey in round 6 and 7, but Ethan Sanders, I think he is hard done by getting dropped to New South Wales Cup. I don't know the reasons there. Potentially there could be some reason behind the scenes, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but as I said, there could be some reason behind the scenes as to why he has been dropped. Maybe it's something that Coach Brad Arthur has seen in Arce in New South Wales Cup. Maybe it's something that he can bring against the Melbourne Storm. But also good news for the Parramatta Eels, which he was named last week as well, but he didn't play, just gave him another week off, is Bryce Cartwright is named on the bench in jersey number 14. So great to have another player back for Parramatta. Look, I think this is I probably wouldn't have Micah Sevo in the side. I wouldn't have had him in last week. I would have had Sean Russell in that spot. I would have put Morgan Harper into the centres. I would have had Ethan Sanders at 5'8". Well, I would have had Ethan Sanders at halfback, Dylan Brown back to 5'8", but Coach Brad Arthur has other ideas there. He is the coach. I am not. I'm just an armchair coach. Look, Joe Ofahengawi, he has been named as the interchange bench, number 16, and Junior Polo as starting front row, but we have seen during the year that Junior starts off the bench, comes on about 20-25 minutes into the game, sometimes does a couple of stints, sometimes just does 40 minutes straight over the halftime break as well, so perhaps that could continue as well. Look, it's going to be tough for the Eels to get this win. If you want to win a tipping comp, I'm going to go the Melbourne Storm to win this one, but I think it's going to be like a 26-20 win or something like that. I think the Eels will push the Melbourne Storm in this game. They always seem to have some fierce rivals, these two sides. Parramatta have beaten Melbourne a couple of times down there. The Storm beat the Eels last year at Parramatta. So, look, they always have some great battles. I guess you could call them minor rivals, I guess. But certainly not major rivals, but minor rivals. But I'm going to tip the Storm in this one. I would love to see Parramatta get the victory. I just don't think they can. Unfortunately, they do sit in 13th spot on the ladder after only 3 wins this season and 1 bye. So they will want to get the win just to stay in touch with that top 8, because for every game that they are losing, they are getting further away. And look, to wrap up, Magic Round sees the West Tigers take on the Dolphins up there at Suncorp Stadium. So one of the home grounds of the Dolphins, but again, they're the away team. The West Tigers are the home side in this one. Look, John Bateman is out with a pec injury, and Isaiah Papali'i is suspended. We all saw that trip that he did last week, so he is out for that one. Stafford Toa is also out with a hamstring, so Brent Naden moves to the centres. Alex Seafarth and Alex Twell come into the starting side for John Bateman and Isaiah Papali'i. So, look, a couple of outs there for the Tigers. Look, Alex Twell, he's a fan favourite, isn't he? Let's hope he can get a try Magic Round. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? That'd be a bit of magic. I wonder how many people are going to put a bet on for that one. Gamble responsibly, obviously. But the big inclusion for the Dolphins is Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. He returns to a fullback, which unfortunately sees the fullback that had taken his spot whilst he was out injured, Trey Fuller, go to the reserves bench, which is probably Look, it's a bit of a surprise. I guess it's hard to see where you could fit him in this side. Potentially, you could have put him on the bench in the jersey number 14. Could have played hooker, I guess, fullback. Any place in the backs, I reckon. But Coach Wayne Bennett has gone for a full forward bench, so interesting one there. Obviously disappointing for the fans to see Trey Fuller not playing, but that's the only change in this squad. So, look, the Dolphins, they sit themselves in fourth position. So they went into the last round in fourth and they stayed in fourth. They've had 6 wins, 3 losses, 1 bye. So they've been playing. They are the best of the Queensland sides at the moment. In terms of being on the ladder, on the ladder in fourth spot, the Broncos in 6th, the Cowboys in 12th, and the Titans in 16th. So they are the best performing Queensland side at the moment, but and they've been playing some good footy. So I think they did a comeback win against Manly last week as well at that same venue, Suncorp Stadium. So they know the ground, obviously. I'm going to go for the Dolphins in that one. So, recapping my tips for Magic Round, Round 11. I am going to go the Bulldogs, Broncos, Knights, Roosters, Cowboys, Panthers, Storm, and Dolphins. So the St George Illawarra Dragons have the bye this year in Magic Round. Last year it was the Newcastle Knights. This year it is the St George Illawarra Dragons. And so if you can notice a little bit of a trend in my tips there, let me know and see if you can guess what the little bit of a trend is there. But that's my tips for round 11. Now, look, I'll be heading up to Magic Round on Saturday. So if you see me out and about in Caxton Street or at Suncorp Stadium, come and say good day. Let's have a chat about footy. And it'd be great to meet some listeners up at Magic Round. That is for sure. So always happy to have a chat and catch up with some listeners. I really appreciate the support. So thank you very much for listening to this one. Look, enjoy your Magic Round. I hope your team gets up. Let me know if you follow my tips or not. I got 5 out of 8 last week, so a little bit disappointing there. Hoping to get about 6 or 7 this week. Or look, maybe I could pull out a bit of magic and get 8 out of 8. That'd be great to get a perfect round in Magic Round. Who knows? But let me know if you're following my tips or if you've got some other different thoughts as well. But thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned later this week as well for a interview-based podcast and some more content coming your way on the Para Cave podcast. The podcast by the fan, for the fans. Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next time.